So I'm rewatching the last episode again, and I really want to talk about how we got to this point because I think there were a lot of really interesting character developments and confessions that led us here. Up until this point, Conrad had literally no idea that anything with Jeremiah and Belly was going on. He didn't know about Belly's feelings shifting from him to Jeremiah. He didn't know how Jeremiah felt about Belly, and he was completely blindsided when he saw them making out on his car in his sweatshirt at his school. And then when he chatted with Belly, he was so angry that he really didn't learn much about the situation at all, which then led to him being super passive aggressive and snarky in the car. And the whole time he was actually trying to prove that he knows Belly way better than Jeremiah does. And I think that this is where everything started to shift. Jeremiah and Conrad just had a conversation yesterday about how they need to start telling each other things even if it's hard. So Jeremiah telling Conrad the truth that he liked Belly and he actually never stopped is making Conrad rethink everything that he's gone through in the past year. And then when Conrad was actually right about Belly wanting the Sour Patch Kids and not the Swedish Fish, his demeanor completely changed, and I think you could really tell that he was recognizing how much Belly was trying to make Jeremiah happy. And then after that, Conrad gives all these looks that are him processing what is going on and trying to understand how Belly and Jeremiah really feel about each other. And it literally took him no time at all to understand what was truly going on. When Jeremiah and Conrad had their chat a few minutes later, Conrad says, "She chose you, and she doesn't care about me anymore. She's done with me." I think this part is really interesting because we have seen that Conrad memorizes and recognizes and sees pretty much everything that Belly does. Just in this episode, he knew about how Belly thinks that Swedish Fish taste like candles. In the car, we saw that he knew that Belly would get motion sickness if she was reading. He knew she was cold on the way to cousins during Christmas. He knows that she only snores when she's really tired. He knew she pretended to be in the Olympics. He knew that cocoa was her specialty. I think you get it. So Conrad knows her well enough that she is truly choosing Jeremiah now. Now we have to bring Jeremiah into the picture because he had some really interesting lines in this episode too. Even though his actions have been kind of suspicious this season, I think deep down Jeremiah really cares about Conrad, and he's shown us that he actually is paying more attention to Conrad than we think. Let's look at some examples of how Jeremiah talks to Belly about Conrad. When they're changing their tire, he yells at Belly and says that Conrad dumped her. And he said that Conrad couldn't handle Belly, so he dropped her. But we also see things like this, how in his head he's thinking that there's an invisible force between Conrad and Belly. And Conrad literally told him to his face that he was in love with Belly. So it's really interesting that he would go to Belly and tell her all these things about Conrad not caring about her when he clearly knows and thinks that that is not true. This is a great example of how Jeremiah says whatever he wants about Conrad to fit his narrative, but he knows he's actually lying. Jeremiah says when things aren't perfect, instead of trying to fix it, he just decides to throw it away. But then the very next day, when Conrad is trying to get in the middle of Laurel and Adam's argument, Jeremiah stops him and says, "Let someone else try to solve a problem for once." So this shows us that Jeremiah actually understands that Conrad tries to fix everything that he possibly can. This scene, when Conrad says that he doesn't want Jared to think he's deserting him by going to Stanford, I think that Jeremiah was really internalizing how selfless Conrad was being by giving up his dream just for Jeremiah. It's interesting that Jeremiah has had all of this context and all of this knowledge the whole time, and he's finally deciding to use it and be honest for once, but especially he wants to protect his own ego. And then in this episode, he tells Belly that Conrad is still in love with her. And when she tries to deny it, he says, "No, Conrad was lying. He didn't mean it. He really is still in love with you." This is showing us that Jeremiah is paying so much attention. He knows what's going on in Conrad's head and Belly's head, and he has used it to get them to this place up until now where he's trying to course correct, because I think he's really feeling bad for Conrad, but he also wants to make sure that he's not Belly's second choice. Then we have Jeremiah talking to Conrad, and I cannot believe that he said this. He said, "If you're what she needs, then I won't get in the way again." Please look at his face. He's admitting that he knows he caused a rift between Conrad and Belly. Would you not be so frustrated right now if you were Conrad? Conrad and Belly almost didn't get together because of Jeremiah. And when they did, in this flashback, especially at Thanksgiving, we can really tell how weird he was making it for them. Jeremiah was staring at Belly while Conrad and Belly were holding hands, and it made her feel so weird that she pulled her hand away. The looks he was giving them after dinner, you could just tell how angry and upset he was about it. And he even asked Conrad to give Jeremiah a heads up next time Belly would be coming over, something that Conrad agreed to do, but Jeremiah did not have the courtesy to give Conrad a heads up that him and Belly were falling for each other. So in this moment, when Jeremiah says, I want you to be happy and I want Belly to be happy, and Conrad agrees, Conrad understands his responsibility to look after Jeremiah, especially because they're really all each other has anymore. So with Jeremiah's confession that he actually likes Belly, and he's pretty much begging Conrad to have a conversation with Belly so that Jeremiah doesn't feel like he is Belly's second choice, and with Conrad knowing that Belly has made up her mind and wants to be with Jeremiah, I think we can really tell in this moment that he knows exactly what he has to do. Part of Conrad really wants to be honest with Belly because he still loves her, so he tells her this at night, but he didn't let Belly talk because she's already made up her mind and he knows that. So then in the morning, Conrad himself is trying to course correct. This is Conrad's attempt to move forward with a little shred of dignity. He's trying his best to make things not be awkward. It's literally killing him inside. He can hardly even look Belly in the eye. I think it's literally taking everything within him to get through this conversation. Him saying, see you guys at the 4th of July is just a casual way to end it and be like, hey, I'm cool with this. I'll see you guys later. Even though on the inside, he is absolutely broken. And we see him tell Jeremiah, make sure she gets back safe, which is him telling her, like, she's yours now. You better treat her right. Then he gets outside and releases the largest sigh ever before he starts to cry. I think ultimately there are two things that led him to this decision. One, he wanted to keep his promise to his mom to look after Jeremiah, and he wants to be a good brother. And two, he is so in love with Belly that he just really wants her to be happy. And if her happiness lies with Jeremiah right now, he has the heart to let that happen. And I think this is a really bittersweet ending for Jeremiah because he knows Conrad is still in love with Belly. He is very skeptical that Belly is actually over Conrad. One of his biggest fears is being the second choice for Belly. And I think Belly feels solid in her choice because she explained to Jeremiah that Conrad was her dream and now she wants something real. But ultimately, I think it will be really interesting to see how all of those thoughts and the knowledge that Jeremiah has in his head, all of the things that he's done that have led him to the place that him and Belly and Conrad are in right now, how that all catches up with him next season, because it is a lot of weight and knowledge to carry for one person.